Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We have lots to discuss. Now, all the 8 series are one game in. Some things that were expected, wink, wink. Some things that were not expected last night. We'll discuss that. We'll also discuss the Buffalo Sabres had their end of season media availability and sort of I think a little bit of the tone deafness of the organization was reflected in what Kevin Adams and Don Granato said. We'll talk about that, but we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So I wanted to send out the good news and congratulations to Clayton Kershaw, who's already a Hall of Famer. I'm just letting them know that he doesn't have to win 300 games. He has 200 wins. He's won the Triple Crown once, Cy Young. He's pretty much done everything a pitcher in this era can do except win 300, and he's a surefire Hall of Famer.
I saw he had given up like one hit through 5. I didn't see how it ended up.
Yes, he won that game. He shut him out.
Okay, wow.
He shut the Mets out. And I'm just saying, this day in the modern era now, if you have 200, let's say he ends his career with like 220, with everything else he's done, he's in. Like you don't have to win 300 anymore. You just have to have a lot of other things in your arsenal.
And he's doing it with deception now. He's not throwing 97 miles an hour. He's got that herky-jerky motion. And yeah, he's a pretty damn good pitcher.
But I mean, as far as, when you talk about great lefties of all time, yeah, he's probably in the list of I would say top 10 because, you got guys like Warren Spahn and
Koufax and Lefty Grove and Rube Waddell.
Are you sure Lefty Grove is a lefty, Mike?
Yeah, I'll go out on a limb.
Okay.
Rube Waddell, Babe Ruth when he was a pitcher, Vita Blue, you could say.
Yeah, he's ahead of Vita Blue. He's got
Ron Guidry.
Yeah, he's ahead of Guidry.
Yeah, I'm just saying top 10.
Yes. Yeah. He's got 3 Cy Youngs, 120 twice, 18 once.
Russ's favorite, John Tudor.
Yeah. Not close to the top 10. But the other thing about Kershaw is, while he hasn't won, like he was 16-5 in 2019, but he hasn't won more than 12 games in the last 5 years, his winning percentage is outstanding. He's got a DeGrom winning percentage, 200 wins and 88 losses, a 694 winning percentage. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, no, he's a fantastic pitcher. And I think you're probably right in the sense that Hall of Famers now, I think they have to get maybe to 220 wins or have a high winning percentage. And with the fact that, they're not going to be getting as many wins as they used to now because they have to pitch 5. I honestly think that Major League Baseball, if they're going to, if the facts of the qualification for a win have changed to the point that maybe it should be 4 innings instead of 5. Because, these starters don't last 5 most of the time. They get pulled after 4 2/3. Or
his lifetime whip is a 1.00. That's lifetime. Here's who he matches up against on Baseball Reference as far as similar pitchers through the age of 34. Pedro Martinez, Hall of Famer. Max Scherzer, gonna be a Hall of Famer. Whitey Ford, Hall of Famer. Roy Halladay, Hall of Famer. Mike Mussina, Hall of Famer. Lefty Grove, Hall of Famer. Now, Zach Greinke is not, and Verlander will be, but that's a pretty good list.
I don't know if Greinke is going to be, but
no, but that's a pretty good list.
Yeah, not bad. I'd take it.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Okay,
here we go. I got stuff to talk about. All right. Hello, Hockey World. Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello, and Eck knows nothing.
Listen, all I know is I was watching a lot of baseball yesterday. There's a lot of great baseball games on, and I don't know if there's any other sport playing right now.
Russ, how about introducing yourself?
And
everybody knows me. Why do I have to bother?
That's Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. So last night, the home teams were outscored 20-6 in the 4 games, which is a really big number. I mean, that's like, you're talking about 4 games, the average of losing by almost like 3.5 goals. So or maybe even more than that, right? Yeah, 3.5 goals. So think about that. Like that's kind of crazy. And we're going to get into each of them, and then I'm going to give hope to Mike and everybody else because there is reason for hope today.
No, there's not.
Plenty of reason for hope. But let's.
Oh, really? Where this is a hopeful show?
This is going to be a show about hope. It's going to be a show about 4 teams that will win their next game, and you can just put money on it. Yeah. There goes Mike.
I'm going to crush some hopes here, I think, unfortunately.
And then Russ's team won, but then he complained about Patrick Kane and just texted me. So yeah, I think everything's going to be like it's going to be an interesting show. All right, Mike. Toronto, Tampa last year. Toronto comes out 5-0 win. Everybody's happy.
They
lose the series.
A shit.
They lose the series, and then last night though.
No. Okay, you're missing the point here, Ak. This was supposed to be a completely different Leaf team, a team with more confidence, a team with more playoff success, a team with more, experience. And in the span of 78 seconds, that evaporated. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I'll use the Dennis Green line. They are who we thought they were.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are, and this is what I mean. It's like don't piss on me and tell me it's raining because that's what's going on here.
The Leafs played a horrible game. Okay, the Leafs played nervous and afraid not to lose.
Yes, that's the point, Ak.
Right, that is the point.
That's the point. You sort of like. I mean, I made the thing about the mental pathways being followed. And the same thing happening over and over again. Well, that's what happened. They panicked. They were tight.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up a goal less than 2 minutes into the first period. They couldn't generate. Tampa Bay was either intercepting or Toronto was turning over the puck. They got the lead to go up 2-0. The Leafs sort of righted the ship at the end of the period, and then they give up a goal with 5 seconds left to go in the first.
They give up 2 goals with less than 5 seconds.
No, I'm talking about
you're doing it segmentally, so yes.
Right. So
I get that. And when it was 3-2, I'm like, okay, things are getting better. And yes, they give up the 4th goal with less than 5 seconds left.
But okay, the Leafs, and I have mentioned this ad nauseum in my columns and doing post game and things of that nature. The Leafs have had the innate ability this year of following up success immediately with failure, and that was they'd score a goal to take the lead or to narrow or to tie the game or to go within one, and invariably within a couple minutes the other team will respond with a goal, and that just it's like a rock in the pond interrupting the ripples. And that's what happened last night. They get 3-2. They finally got the crowd back in the game. Jake McCabe, I think it was McCabe or Brody, takes a penalty, and Braden Point scores the power play goal, and the game was over with. It was done.
So I have a couple of thoughts, Zach. So my first thought is Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky. I knew he would be, and he is. So I didn't care what I saw in the regular season from him. He's still that great goalie. That's one thing. The next thing was Cooper on the bench getting interviewed by Emily Kaplan, basically called this a business trip and would be happy to get 1 of 2. And he wasn't lying. Cooper tells the truth in these interviews. And he's happy now because even if he has injuries, he's not going to play those guys who are injured. He's not going to try his hardest to go up 2-0 against the Leafs. Why? Because he's been there before. They're not worried about it. They went in there to win a game, to wrestle home ice. That's what they did. So, again, this is going right to the script of what they know. Now, I'm not telling you they're winning the Stanley Cup, but what I am telling you is John Cooper has a master class on how to beat the Leafs, and the Leafs don't know how in return to do that same film work and everything else to beat Tampa Bay. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that everybody in that organization seems to be thinking like the two of you are thinking, honestly, if you ask me. Like
the reality.
The problem is that it's a 7-game series, and if you're going to give up after losing 1 game,
you're not going to give up.
No. But the reality here is that they need somebody in the locker room to look around and laugh that game off. That was
this is the hockey version of Groundhog Day, for crying out loud.
But it's not. But if the second you start thinking about the past, you're going to be plagued by it. Like you cannot.
But those who do not learn from the past.
That's not true with sports with teams. These are different players. There's only how many players?
It's It's
But it
the
doesn't matter.
same
They're all wearing the same uniform. These are
They
different.
have at least 5 or 6 of the same core players that
Sure.
they've had all the way through.
Sure. Okay, I'll give you that. But for the most part, I mean, Ryan O'Reilly doesn't know what you're talking about.
No, but
there are people on that team that just have they're like, what is going on? Like, why is this team?
All right, I'm also going to tell you something else that's going on. I'm not a big Sheldon Keefe fan. I never have been. But what I'm going to tell you is when you have Tampa up 7-3 and they're playing the last 3 minutes of this game like it's the 7th game of the Stanley Cup.
I agree.
That is a difference. And for whatever reason, Keefe will not show any emotion on the bench, and he didn't yesterday.
I thought he showed
he didn't show much.
I thought he showed bad emotion on the bench. Yeah,
I would like to see him fire his team up in one way or another, and I don't know if he's capable.
This is where I had a problem with the way the game was finished. I mean, they pulled Samson off in the at the end of 2 periods. They put Wall in. They only allowed a goal in the last 10 minutes of the third period. Most teams in a long 7-game series, when you're down by 4 goals, that's the longest 10 minutes of the game, because usually they'll send a message. They'll try to get in the kitchen of the other team. They'll try to, okay, you're going to feel some bumps and bruises in advance of game 2. The Leafs' response was, let's just get this over with and restart and gain and flush this. I'm sorry, you can't. You know what? That game, flushing it, that's perfect description, because it was in the toilet. That was
and this is just a hockey game, and you go out there and you simply say, we blew it. We played a terrible game. We still have many more chances to win this series. We still, and Cooper, honestly, when I saw him on the bench and he said that, I was like, man, play that tape for the Maple Leafs, because
he doesn't care.
I'm not saying he cares, but I'm saying if you want to fire up a team, no, Cooper. Listen, I like Cooper, but he is I love him. He's one of the best, and he does say what he means, Russ. But he has also came off a little bit arrogant in that quote. Like,
but again, yes, he's always a little arrogant, but he has the winning behind the arrogance. Look at the chat.
For now, he does, but he doesn't. That won't be there forever. And the reality is that this team is not as good as the team.
But we have to talk about the coaching matchup here, because there's a lot of people in the chat room that are saying a lot of what I was thinking during that game and just said a minute ago. And there is a problem here with the coaching matchup.
I don't disagree with you at all.
Cooper can afford to be arrogant, because he knows at this point that the team that he is facing has not shown one ability to stuff it down his throat. Not one time.
He said that to them in that interview, basically. And to me, that was just like, if I'm a hockey player,
a business trip. He didn't even call it like
right. If I'm a hockey player and I listen to that tape, I've got all I need. It's like if you're not. I mean, obviously, there's many different ways to be motivated here, but being motivated by fear of losing is not one of them.
No, right? But I'm going to tell you this: I was a little worried when it was. I want to say when it was 5-3 and 5-2, and they showed Austin Matthews on the bench, and he already had the 1,000-mile stare.
And he was shaking his head.
Yeah.
And
and no one in that friggin' room who's bringing them out of that crap. This is ridiculous. They're carrying weights of like 1,000 pounds on their shoulders for no reason. And you can sit there, Mike, and say,
wait, what do you mean for no reason? This team is 0-6.
The past playoff games don't count anymore. And if you're going to play hockey, you got to realize that.
Yeah, this team, this core group is 0-6.
But it's not. But this core group,
they're not way down by 1967. They're not way down by 19.
Yeah, they are. They're way down by the
No,
whole
no.
I don't think they're way down by 1967.
That's in the fans' head.
Right.
They're way down by 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021.
Well, then they should just give up, Mike. If they really are feeling, if this is the first hockey team I've ever heard to do that, if that really is the case, they should just give up.
This is a team that has a Calder Trophy winner, a Hart Trophy winner, a first team All-Star, and they've never won a series. And when you give them something negative in a game, they're going to immediately go down the pathway of, oh boy, here we go again. It's human nature. I'll tell you one thing. It's like, I don't buy into this. Well, the Leafs are 0-8 against Wes McCauley playoff games.
No, I'm not buying that.
That's a loser's.
Might as well, you're buying into everything else.
That's a loser's argument. But what I will say is, and I said this to Russ before.
That's a loser's argument. That's a loser's argument.
Yes.
Every argument you're making is a loser's argument.
No, Ack, it's the facts. It's the facts.
You're talking about the past like you can change it. Like it matters now.
No, but it
And
does matter.
as long as you think the past matters, it does.
It does matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's in the heads of those players.
How the Red Sox finally win a World Series is by saying.
It took them 86 years to get over it, Ack.
Yeah, but how they finally do it is by saying it doesn't matter. These are like Brian O'Reilly was a great pickup because he doesn't carry that weight. But because he's probably from Toronto or whatever,
another point here, X. So we did talk pre-game yesterday about Samsonov not being the greatest in the playoffs, and he certainly was not the greatest. And Mike and I were talking offline, and I agreed that if Matt Murray were healthy, that would be the way to go. You can't put in Joseph Wall, but you could put in Matt Murray. And at this point, I don't think it's too soon because I think you already know what Samsonov can and cannot do. Now, Matt Murray might be the only guy that can change it.
Now, you have with Matt Murray is he's won before. Like he knows pressure. Okay, Samsonov. I think one of the reasons that both the two goalies that we're seeing that have had great years in with Samsonov and then the one in New Jersey from the ex Capital goalies are the fact that they were kicked out of Washington because they weren't great at handling pressure situations. And when you put you're in Toronto is the same. Toronto is the biggest pressure situation you can have. So. Last night we saw Samsonov might not be ready for the pressure of the Toronto playoffs. That's a reality that we can't deal with. But Matt Murray would be if he's healthy.
He was not alone, Act, because the entire team was not ready.
I'm not blaming it on him. I'm not blaming the game on him. But I'm just saying, he's got to come up bigger. Like he's got to.
But I know that people are and the NHL and the Michael Bunting is going to have a hearing at 3:00 today for the hit on Cernak. And, Michael Bunting was probably one of the only reasons that they got back into the game because he drew a penalty on Cernak that got them the power play goal and the second power play goal. And he was basically trying to get another power play by creating a situation where he was going to hit Cernak and maybe draw a response. And Cernak sort of bent over and Bunting came up, and it was just I don't think it was purposeful.
I don't think there was a lot of malice in it, but it ended up bad, and that's going to be the problem.
Right. He's going to get suspended. He's probably going to get suspended for a game, but I've heard some people, Bunting is responsible for the loss. Get your head out of your ass.
He's a modern day
honestly, the only way that the only momentary reason that they were in that game was because Bunting drew a penalty and got them a power play that they scored a goal on. But Russ, like we talked about on the Twitter Spaces last night, as I thought they were gonna go one direction. Apparently, they're going the other direction because Matthew Nyes is going to play. They skated Matthew Nyes.
I think it's a bad time to put him in.
I agree. I don't think it's the right thing to do. But
who would you play instead of him?
My thought was to put Wayne Simmons in on the fourth line. And because you're going to have the same situation with Perry and Maroon running amok, and that's what they did yesterday. They created the early turnover. They created chaos in the Leafs offensive zone. You've got a defenseman in Justin Hall who plays regularly like his head is up his rectum, and they took advantage of that and Justin Hall was directly responsible for not only the opening goal, but the jam goal, Russ. He was the one standing in front of the net, and Patrick Maroon hit his stick that knocked the puck over the goal line. So, but they're going to go with him over Timothy Liljegren again.
Of Tampa, and the reason that I picked him. There's Cooper. There's, obviously Braden Point watches this show because I said the backhand's working. The backhand worked. But he waited on it. He didn't rush it. Like it was 2.6 seconds, and he took all of them, he didn't rush it. These guys, there's no situation that's too big for them. And the problem, and Mike did hit on it, I noticed this in the third period. Corey Perry was having a great time out there. A great time.
They were playing right into it.
He was not affected by anything
at least
that was going out on the ice.
Yeah, at least to play right into it. If they bring in Simmons, they're playing into it even more. Like
they would then have somebody who could respond to it. That's
You don't want to waste time responding to Corey Perry when it beat the friggin' Tampa Bay Lightning.
no, you want to neutralize Corey Perry.
If you outscore the Lightning, you will neutralize Corey Perry.
Excuse me,
Reality,
Corey
he
Perry.
runs around like that when they have a
Wait,
3-goal lead.
Corey
As the Kings, I have Kings fans who hate him. This through the whole. I mean, trust me.
Corey Perry had a goal and 2 assists yesterday. He can't do that if he's lying flat on the ice after taking a couple knuckle sandwiches from Wayne Simmons.
You're not going to lay him flat on the ice. You're going to chase him. You're going to chase him. This is what Corey
God.
Perry does. How many times?
But here's the thing, though. There's obviously Tampa does a lot of film study, and so do the Leafs. But for whatever reason, the Leafs can't seem to solve what Tampa does against them. So my feeling is you've got to do something unpredictable. Like bringing in Matthew Nyes isn't really unpredictable because, like Mike said, yes, he might get in on the offensive playing, but those other parts of the game, that's going to be hard for him, and they're going to try and really get him to force the puck in the corner and cough it up. And it's possible that it might happen because it's his first game.
No.
But the idea is you've got to look at something and change something and say, okay, you know what? We've been doing it this way. We've now got to go this way. And they never do it. They're going to go back with the same lines.
They're not going back to the same lines. They're moving they're anticipating Bunting getting suspended. They're putting Yarncroke up on the number 1 line. Okay. Thankfully, they're doing what they should have done in game 1, which is move Ryan O'Reilly to 3rd line center. Which
that's smart. At least they're doing that.
But they're putting him and Achari with Nyes because I think they want to make sure that he's covered up defensively. Right. So that's the smart thing. But other than that, I mean, I would have put in Simmons over Nyes and gone mano a mano with the 4th lines. Keefe is not doing that. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a physical deficit without Bunting in the lineup. I mean, we'll see. If Nyes has a good game, then Bunting may have a tough time getting back in the lineup. I have a feeling we'll see Bunting in game 3.
Well, Bunting's not getting out of the line. If Bunting can play, he's totally playing. He's a serious player for that team.
Yeah, but the problem is that every time he gets knocked down, the referees don't call it, and every time he knocks somebody down, he gets called.
Players like Bunting and Perry are different players when you're winning than when they're losing. All right. Bunting, when he's losing, that's what you're going to say about him. Like when you're winning, you're going to say he's driving the other team crazy.
He was driving Tampa crazy, but he was also driving the referees crazy.
All right, so it looks like Cernak is out, and Hedman is a game time decision.
I heard Hedman is out. I heard Hedman's injury is more serious than they're letting on. I might be wrong, but I just talked to somebody in Tampa today about that.
Okay.
Now, and no one really says anything specifically.
They're playing with house money, like Russ was saying. It's like, okay, they can put in Hayden Fleury and they can put in Zach Bogosian and still beat the Leafs because
they have the Leafs so spooked.
Right now,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they're doing.
Losing someone for a series, Zach. That's the thing.
No, I mean, no. Listen, I still think the Leafs are going to win this in 5 or 6. I'm telling you that right now. They should.
No.
I mean, whether or not they will or not.
No. Don't say they should because again,
I'm not this powerful, Mike.
Until they beat them, nobody believes they'll beat them. No one.
I feel like Eck would watch the screen with Secretariat when he only had like a 4-leg lead, and he would say he's only winning by 6 legs, even though he won by 27.
No,
I don't know what you're watching.
He's the better horse, and the Leafs are the better team.
Eck would believe that Ruffian would win the race against Foolish Pleasure, even if Ruffian broke its leg.
No, but he is right. The Leafs are the better horse, but the jockey on the horse isn't the better jockey.
I'm not saying that Keefe got outcoached every way to Thursday last night. I will 100% agree with that. Just by the fact that Keefe is terrified and Cooper's just saying, look how scared he is. That's what they're saying.
It's not Keefe. It's not Sheldon Keefe.
It doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter.
It's not Sheldon Keefe.
He's a part of it, Mike.
He's a part of it, but it's not all on him.
No, it's not all on him.
When has this group, when have they ever shown any mental toughness? They fold at the first sign of trouble. And that's why I keep saying, show me that you can win. Because until you do, I'm not going to friggin' believe it.
And Mike, I don't blame you for that passion. Okay, I don't blame you at all for what you're saying there. I'm trying to approach this from like if I was on that team or in that room, what I would have to say to myself. Okay, I'm not a fan. I'm just saying I've talked to players on the Lightning last. I talked to players on the Lightning, players on Clayton today, and they said all they had to do was look at how scared the Leafs were, and they just sat there and laughed. It's like this the pressure is unbearable. People are saying this is you suck until you don't suck, you suck, and they are sitting there and they are absolutely destroying themselves. That's the clear as day, because this Lightning team should not beat that Light team, like that Tampa team or that Leafs team, sorry, by 4 goals. There's no point in that. There's no reason they should score 7 goals on them. That's absurd. This Lightning team is not the Lightning that we know. But they're still the Lightning.
There are enough of the Lightning that we know that
to maybe win it, to maybe beat some teams, but they shouldn't beat this. This is maybe the 2nd or 3rd best team in the NHL. They're not the Lightning is like maybe the 10th best team or 11th.
This team has a nasty habit of finding a way to make the absurd true. And that's what they've done. It's one game, and it's not impossible that they come back and win this series. But they're going to have a complete departure from what they have done over the last few years, which is absolutely fold in the face of pressure. They have done it over and over. When you lose to an inferior Montreal Canadiens team, when you're up 2 games to 1, that showed me that they had no mental toughness. And right now they come out in a series where they're the favored team, even though I didn't think that they were favored, and they came up mentally small.
All right, I'm going to give you a coaching error by Keith. And this is something that worked in the regular season, but he should be doing more of in the playoffs. John Tavares is their best faceoff guy, not Cam. And especially in the playoffs with all his experience, you can't keep going to Cam for the important faceoffs when you have John Tavares.
Yeah.
I mean, Camp is probably the 3rd best face-off guy after Tavares and O'Reilly.
Sure, but don't you agree for every important face-off, you should have Tavares out there, even if you send him to the bench after? He was 57%, but he didn't take as many draws as Camp. That's coaching. That's coaching.
No, but the thing is, Russ, though, is Tavares is their best face-off guy, but he's probably of the 4 centers.
O'Reilly actually had the best percentage. Sorry, I missed that.
Tavares is probably the best face-off guy or 2nd best face-off guy, but of the 4 centers, he's probably the worst defensively. He's not bad defensively, but Camp is a better defense.
No, I get the defense part. I'm just saying.
Well, they're talking about
win some face-offs, and if it's not O'Reilly, I want Tavares out there.
Right. Well,
to win big faceoffs, I agree with you. I mean, you have to, or at least have both.
I think you're using Camp too much against a team that knows that, hey, we could lose the faceoff but still get the puck.
Yeah, right, exactly. Got guys in there. I agree. I mean, listen, I understand the fans' frustrations here, and the frustration that of the past and all that stuff. I don't not understand that. I don't not understand why any Leafs fan would be saying exactly what you're saying, Mike. And the reality of the teams, this team has not shown that gumption. Yeah, they've lost to teams that they seem to be cursed against everyone. Like Montreal is a cursed team for them. It's like Boston's a cursed team for them.
Well,
Tampa's now a cursed team for them.
When all other explanations fail, you look at yourself. You look at internally.
You do.
Again,
and that means that means that they shouldn't re-sign Matthews. They shouldn't re-sign Marner.
No. You're okay. Now you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the reality is, what are they going to do?
Shake up the core.
You're going to get O'Reilly in there, or somebody who actually has, and they're going to freaking teach Matthews how to win. Like these guys need to be taught how to win, and they need to be taught. More importantly, they need to be taught how to lose. The Leafs don't know how to lose.
Right. 4 years ago, I said they needed to trade Nylander or shake up some aspect of the core. And let's keep.
Well, Nylander won't be there.
I disagree. I think the Leafs know how to lose. I think that's the problem.
Right. They just don't know how to win.
They don't know how to reverse momentum.
They don't know how to win. All right,
they won a lot of games this year.
Let's talk about the other 3 series because
this series is over. It is.
No. I'm just saying the people in the chat want to hear something other than Leaf talk, and I'll just say this: I want to talk about Rangers Devils because I thought the Rangers were going to beat the Devils. I thought the Rangers were the better team than the Devils. And like we said yesterday, Russ, I thought the Rangers had the better goaltending than the Devils. And that showed yesterday because not saying Vitek Vanacek is not a good goalie. He's just not Igor Shesterkin.
No, he is Samsonov. They're the same goalie. They're the same.
No. But hold on. When they were trying, and you weren't doing this, Zach, but other people were trying to match up the regular season numbers of Shesterkin.
Oh, I know.
That was a lost leader in my eyes. That was like, hold on. You can't do that because, for one thing, Shesterkin rises to the occasion, and Vanacek's not really had that moment, right? So I knew that was a situation, but I also knew the Rangers had more clutch guys, and the problem was Vanacek didn't have a good game. He made it much easier on the Rangers to win that game. The Devils carried the game at times, but they didn't know how to put it away. And look, Shesterkin made some great saves. Don't get me wrong. But and Patrick Kane was not good in that game. He got an assist on a power play that anybody could be passing the puck around. But everybody was seeing last night, 5-on-5, he has issues.
Let me stop you there.
If he's not scoring in games, he is a bit of a liability. That is
there for a second, Russ. I know he's always going to have defensive issues, right? But he is a matchup problem. Okay, and the reality is. Yes, he is. The reality is they were matching their best line against him, and that opens up.
But he didn't score any points 5-on-5, so they won.
What?
He did not score any.
No, but that doesn't matter because that takes the good defense away from the other players on the Rangers who had their time at the time of their lives, just taking it away.
I don't. That's not really.
He's a force, even when he doesn't. It's not a force on the scoreboard. He'll be a force on the scoreboard at some point in the series.
Listen, the terminology of a force is Vladimir Tarasenko. Hold on. Tarasenko is a force. When you saw that first goal, the way he got the puck and he got it off the wall and he went to the net, Patrick Kane can't do any of that. But Tarasenko is a force. That's an actual force. Now, I'm not saying Patrick Kane can't have good games and good moments, but what I'm saying is they only gave him 13 minutes of ice time 5-on-5. Why? Because they know they have to start hiding him 5-on-5. Now, he got 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the power play. And that's what they're going to do with him. They're giving him the James Van Riemsdyk role now because that's where Patrick Kane is at. But the rest of the game, I'm worried about the Devils, not because they didn't score a lot last night, because, yes, they didn't stop the puck, and they did have some good opportunities, and they couldn't bury them. And if they're going to come up small in a couple of games, like if the Rangers get a 2-0 lead in this series, they're done.
Oh, yeah.
The series is over.
You want to know who's
they look nervous. The Devils looked like it was the first playoff game they played in a long time.
You want to know who's a force? Adam Fox is a force.
Yes, Adam Fox is a force.
This is all about. I mean, there's so many different aspects to. Don't put one game on anything here. Like, just give Kane a series.
No, I'm giving him.
Before you start telling me he can't play anymore.
They can't go down 2-0 to this Rangers team with all this experience.
No, I'm just saying. Don't put. I'm not talking about the Devils. I'm talking about Patrick Kane. Don't tell me. Just give a whole series before you tell me he can't.
I'm not giving you. Okay, but I'm giving you the same report that I gave you when he first joined the Rangers to now. I'm giving you the whole season, all that we've seen of Patrick Kane with the Rangers report. I'll wait until the end of the series. That's fine. But the idea is, Mike's right. As good as Dougie Hamilton is, he doesn't think like Adam Fox does.
I mean, there's no way that the Devils, even the Devils themselves, should think that they do. Like, like these guys. I mean, we're talking about very different kinds of players. You're talking about Fox is a Norris candidate every year. He's.
Well, Hamilton is too. He was on my ballot. Hamilton had a great year.
Hamilton's a good player, but he's not. He's not yet.
He's not at that level yet. That's the problem.
He's not in that. And he doesn't have a whole lot of people around him. And on defense, that are like Adam Fox has either. Like Fox has a better, just all over defense than the Devils. But the Devils, they're fast and they're quick, and they didn't. But when you fall behind so quickly, like they did, it becomes a different game. And the Devils couldn't play their game at all. Like if the Devils got out to a 2-0 lead, then it's a different game altogether. And it's just you can't, like the falling behind quickly last night was what haunted these home teams. Like it haunted Toronto, it haunted everybody. It was like you cannot, it just takes the wind out of your sails, and it changes how you have to play. And then suddenly you're mixing up lines, and suddenly you don't trust anything that got you there, and all this stuff. Coaches who panic, who look like they don't know what they're doing, make the players more panicky.
What last night proved is that the game is played in two places. It's played on the ice and it's played between the ears.
Oh, yeah. Hockey more than any other sport, Mike, is that way. I really think that. I've always thought that.
The Devils were 0 for 4 on the power play. That really killed them. The Rangers' penalty kill is good. It's not great. And so the fact that they couldn't cash in there.
The penalty killer is Shesterkin. I mean, come on. It's like.
And that's who should be, right? You're going to be your best. But the other thing is the Rangers blocked a lot more shots. They blocked 23 shots to the Devils 12. And so this is the problem with this. So in the playoffs, we know that there's a more defensive style that gets played and shot blocking becomes a big key. The Devils aren't a big shot blocking team because they're used to winning with their speed and they're used to having some leads in games. Now it's a different story. Now, I think it's a mistake moving Timo Meier down the lineup. Like Mike and I were talking about that. I think they need to have him higher in the lineup and not trying to, fool around with these matchups. You need to have your best 6 against the Rangers' best 6. Otherwise, you got a problem because, you noticed the fourth line got shortened really quickly in New Jersey because there was no point other than for faceoffs because actually McLeod was great on faceoffs. But Vanacek, he's got a rebound. And if he doesn't, then that's just going to set them into a panic mode because then it's going to be like, do we go with Schmid or Blackwood? And they're going to have big discussions about that because I think there's inner turmoil about who is the next goalie to go in there. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there is some. There is definitely some. I think Blackwood would probably be the guy they went to.
I think they're going to end up going to him, like you said, simply because he's the experienced guy, even though Schmidt's had a hell of a season as a backup. He has.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know which one.
And that's putting the cart before the horse. We'll see what Vanacek does next game, but there were things there were 2 easy goals I felt like the Rangers got that really took the pressure off them early and put all the pressure on the Devils. And look, Hughes' penalty shot was great, man. I mean, he was stoned once by Shesterkin. He wasn't going to get stoned again. So I didn't put that game on Jack Hughes, but there are other guys, like even Dawson Mercer was a -2. Like, Gallant got the Rangers to play a very strong defensive game. He did. And now the Devils are going to have to figure out how to break that because the Rangers have it both ways. They have guys who can play defense, can play physical, and then they've got all this offense too. And the Devils don't quite have it all. That's an issue.
Right. No, I agree. And they're playing against a very good team too. The Rangers are a very good team.
No, they're an excellent team. There's no.
I mean, they've got every chance. They've got every bit as much a chance to win this as anybody else. I mean, they
it's
really
not like the Rangers can't be beat, but the idea is, I think the Devils got smacked in the face in the sense that their regular season mentality, the way they kind of rolled into this game, now just has to change.
Yeah.
They have to change now.
Oh, I think that that's what being in the playoffs for the first time is about. It's about learning that. So I think that's perfectly within the realm. So let's go to Colorado. This game for a second. We all thought that this wasn't a series at all, except for our buddy
Anthony. Anthony so far was the
right.
Mr. Dominant.
Anthony. But yeah, this was this was an interesting. It was also a pretty boring game, honestly.
It was.
It didn't have a whole lot going for it, but that's how Seattle's got to win the games, right? So that's how they're going to win games. They played a perfect road game, basically.
Well, I thought the most interesting reaction to the game was after the game when a reporter asked Nathan McKinnon what he thought of Philip Grubauer's performance, and his response was, "I didn't." So and I wonder whether there's a little sort of lingering animosity with the fact that Grubauer left Colorado and signed with Seattle and got the money. They want to Stanley Cup, so you wouldn't think that they would have that bitterness. But I mean, of what I watched of that, and it wasn't a ton. Seattle seemed to just keep Colorado at bay.
Yeah,
I didn't think Georgiev was responsible for the loss. I mean, the goals,
wasn't great
goals, but really, Colorado has to be able to generate more offense against a team. And if they're playing,
they were starting to get like more chances in the second period. I felt like that was happening. I'll tell you this though, and I in the chat room I put a big exclamation point. That play by Ilya Tolvanen was a great play, like a great effort. He had hit it out of the air.
But he couldn't play for Nashville, could he?
Well, and that's the thing. I'm going to go back to that and just say I don't know what they were thinking.
Here's the thing. I'm telling you what. I mean, they tried everything. Like I follow that carefully.
It's not even so much why they got rid of him. They lost him for nothing. That's the
I know they tried to trade him. Don't think they didn't try to trade him. I mean, he was like they tried.
Why couldn't he play for them? That's the
don't have any idea. Like, and he couldn't. I mean, I watched him play game after game with them. He couldn't.
But I got to tell you, he's turning into the goal scorer that everybody saw he had the ability, and that was a heck of a goal. And that really, I think that shocked Colorado a bit. I know it shocked me because when I saw that go in, I was like, uh-oh, we might be in trouble here in this game. And then, like you said, Colorado, knows how to Seattle knows how to lock down, but then McKinnon got his goal because Rantanen off of McKinnon play. And then you're thinking, all right, things are rolling right, but then Seattle went up again. I was surprised. I was a little surprised, and I can't give you a good answer why Seattle won, but they did.
It felt like Colorado took the game way too lightly. Before they knew what they were about.
You might be right about that.
That's what it felt like because it's a typical thing where everybody says you're going to win. It's not a series. You got the easiest feed. You're Colorado. You're the defending Stanley Cup champions. You should take this team out, no problem. And they played it like they didn't play the intensity.
You're right.
I'm really curious what happens in the second game of the series. Like if they say, okay, wait a second. Yeah, because before they knew it, they were down, and then they were fighting. They were just trying to come back, and it was just not working. And then they were doing all the wrong.
McCarr played 25 minutes. I mean, my God, that's a long time considering he came off the injured list.
No one knew whether he was going to play it off. So
I do want to answer the chat room. Leonard Forsberg said, "Yeah, Tolvanen was great for your grade." Listen, I was a Tolvanen guy through the draft. I ranked him probably like 19 or 20. He had that problem with his grades, so he couldn't transfer his grades. I think that sort of caused a problem early in his career. I think it did take him a little while to get his footing going, but it looked like 2 years ago, I think he had like 14 goals with Nashville, and I thought he was on the right path. But whatever reason, like X said, he couldn't put it together. But I got to tell you, he's putting it together, and it's nice to see. But Colorado does need to play better than this. They're better than this.
And switching to the last game from last night, I'll just say this: the Laurent Brassois experiment is over because giving up 2 goals in the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I did not understand that experiment at all.
Well, I mean, and it's like you're gonna wait until Logan Thompson. You'll be waiting until next.
It tells me that Thompson's not ready at all. Like if Thompson was close to being ready, they would have gone with Quick in that game.
So I think you have to go to Quick, and
you got to go Quick.
Now they have to go to Quick.
Yeah, now they did score a goal in response to that. There was 2-1, but really 17 shots on goal by Vegas. 17.
Yeah,
you can't beat Hellebuck with only 17 shots on goal.
And also, this is the difference between like bringing Matt Stone into that team versus bringing Mark Stone into that team versus bringing Kucherov into the Tampa Bay team before. Like when you brought Kucherov into the Tampa Bay team, that Tampa Bay team is so solid, and they know Kucherov's good, but they still have their own thing going on. They were watching Stone play last night when he was out there, and you saw that simply like, this is, wow, we got Stone back. We're not that, wow, we're in a playoff.
Yeah, but there's a difference, Zach, because Kucherov was ready in March that year. They held him for over a month.
Yeah, but I think Stone's been ready for a couple of weeks too, Mike. I mean,
he didn't look like Mark Stone yesterday. He really didn't. He didn't
look like this team had learned how to play without him, and then were trying to play with him again, and they were confused. That's what they look like to me.
I don't know who rang the horn, who revved up the horn. Do we know who did that for Vegas? Because I didn't see the beginning.
I didn't see it. No.
Jimmy Hoffa? No.
Yes, I think it should have been Wayne Newton, and if it was, then Wayne's lost his magic. But
here you go. Jack Eichel and Mark Stone were both -3.
There you go.
That's
that can't happen.
That can't happen.
No. But okay, so now let me bring back hope. Let me bring back some hope for a second because we've gone through all this stuff. And Mike, I know you don't. You can leave the show now if you don't want to hear the hope. But that's fine. All right. Okay, good. So let Mike come on so we can actually talk about hope for a second. Because this is hockey after all, right? And we know what hockey's all about. And hockey, and years ago I did a study, and I followed it up every year, and I've been trying to keep up with it because I think it's kind of cool and kind of interesting. And that is the fact that in the playoffs are all emotional. There's no question they're emotional. And Mike will be back eventually, I imagine. But if he's not, that's totally fine.
I won't miss him.
No, I mean, because he won't let me get through this anyway.
No.
Without telling me it doesn't matter. But here's the thing. I've noticed a long time ago that when a team gets blown out in the playoff game, they win the next game more often than they don't. And so I did this. I went through 1,043 playoff games over the last 10 years. And here's the reality. So I'm calling a blowout a loss of 4 or more. So that's like we're talking about. So last night we had 3 blowouts.
Right.
The night before that we had the 1 blowout with the Panthers. So in the blowout there have been many blowouts. In the last 10 seasons, there have been, like I said, 10,043 playoff games. There only have been 84 times. Now we can add it to like 88 because of the 3 this year, where a team's won by 4 or more. And usually games aren't that far apart. That's really rare. So it's only 8% of the time you get these blowouts. But when you get a blowout over the last 10 seasons, 56% of the time, the team that's blown out wins the next game. So over half the time they win the next game, which is it's only 48 hours later, and this team just got killed by the same team. They come back and they win. And this is where we talk about like the mental.
I believe in that. I do.
Yeah, 44% of the games following a blowout are 1-goal games. So it's like these games that come from like being a 4-goal or more game, they almost half the time end up being 1-goal game. All right, Mike.
Listen, stay that way. I don't care.
20% of the time, the next game heads into overtime. So these games are close games. And here's a really kicker. There were 17 times when a team beat another team by 5 or more goals, and 12 times the team that lost won the game following that of 17 that lost by 5 or more goals.
I'll take off the tape here just to say statistics are for losers. They really are.
They are for how you want to use them. Like you can use the stat in any way you want to. If I'm Sheldon Keefe, I'm showing this to my team today, and I'm saying, listen,
it doesn't matter.
But if you have to do something, Mike, and if you want to say, if you want to talk about the past, this is the past. This is what's happened in the past. If you want to talk about our past,
there you go. This is the past, not our past. All other pasts don't matter because they're not a particular team. You're talking about the general pool of NHL existence. No, we're talking about one team. We're talking about that team and those players. And
that team that we're talking about that last year won a game 5-0, and then we're beaten in game 2. So The reality is, for these teams, all these teams that lost last night for Florida, Florida's a little bit different situation because they're playing against the Boston Bruins, but these other games were closer.
My point is that it's very possible that the Leafs come out in game 2, and we'll talk about the series start the other series.
I'm going to get to it.
My point is that the Leafs could come back in game 2 and win, like they won game 1 last year, and it doesn't matter. The end result matters, and until this team proves that they can fight through this mental midgetry, then there's no reason. I mean, please, the fans at Scotiabank Arena booed incessantly after the first period, after the second period, and after the game. You know why? Because they're paying hundreds of dollars for a game, and the team that's being paid more than anybody didn't show up.
I don't think anybody on that team would disagree with them being booed last night. I mean, that's
no.
So go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Right, I did want to mention first. Happy that Morgan Barron, 75 stitches later, because of the Swaz blade near his eye, is okay, because 75 stitches is a lot, folks. And he's a tough guy. He's a big tough guy. I know him. He was a Rangers pick and a really good hard-nosed player. Anyhow, so the breaking news is Elias Pettersson signed a 3-year deal with Vancouver. This is not good news. This is
no. This is the other Elias Pettersson.
Oh, this is the other one.
This is the defenseman. This is like
that's the other one. Okay.
Yeah, this is like Sebastian Aho.
That makes sense then. Okay.
Yes. No.
Never mind.
Yes, no. But yeah. So, but no, we need to talk about something that I think was very interesting, which was the Buffalo Sabres end of season availabilities today, and I shook my head because Don Granato, who friend of the show, who we all like, came out and said, "Oh yeah, I have no problem going with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Devin Levi as my goaltending tandem," and said I quote about UPL, "Oh, he had a great season." Where?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
You're pushing it out there because you want the player to know that you're behind him, but everybody knows he didn't have a great season.
Right, he didn't have a great season, and honestly, the failure of their development of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, along with the signing of Eric Comrie, is the reason why they finished out of the playoffs. And John Waro, my colleague from AP, tried to sort of corner Granato and corner Kevin Adams about saying, well, the expectation was that this was this team very possibly could have made the playoffs this year, and don't you think this was a missed opportunity? And they both bristled at the assertion that it was a missed opportunity. And I'm sorry, when you miss the playoffs by 2 points, you had an opportunity to make the playoffs. And had you made one tweaking move, a slight upgrade in between the pipes, that would have gotten you in the playoffs, and you didn't do that.
I'm just
and
moving
you missed
past that. I'm not going to go through that again, but what I'm going to say is this. The honeymoon there is over. Like now next year, they're expected to make the playoffs. And then if they don't make the playoffs next year, they're going to start taking heat like every other team.
Right.
And it's rightly so, because again, it's been a long time. What has it been, 12 years?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, they have reached that end point that you always like to reach, to say, you've got to do everything they have to do to win. And next year they have to do everything. So this offseason, this draft, they got a lot of draft capital. They've got to turn that into players and things that they can do to win now for next year to get in the playoffs. This is what the Rangers had to do when they went. I want to say they definitely went 10 years without the playoffs. They might have gone 11. And that was when, through the period I was covering them. Yeah. You have to at some point end that. And it is a problem. And the fan base doesn't care anymore. Like, they're happy that some things are going well, but I'm pretty sure they wanted to make the playoffs, right, Mike? Yes.
No, I think there is a genuine angst in the fan base and a frustration that they didn't. And this is the thing. It's always couched. It was couched by Adams. It was couched by Granato that they didn't want to give up significant assets in a short-sighted pursuit of the playoffs, and that their aim is to be in the playoffs for multiple years. Well, that's the aim of every franchise, but in the here and the now, you didn't have to give up a first-round pick or Isaac Rosine or Kulich or somebody like that for a goaltender at the deadline. It was probably giving up a third-round pick for a James Reimer or somebody like that. You wouldn't have had to given up a lot to marginally improve your goaltending, and they didn't do it. And why? Because they're sticking to this plan of building from within. And Russ, they were talking about, well, we're not going to hold some of our young prospects to the normal construct of they need to play a year in the minors or this and that. When they're ready, they're ready. And it's like, okay, so what this is telling you is they're going to force feed Devin Levi into the NHL next year. And they're just going to say, okay, we believe he's ready. And we're going to see how it. And then in December, if he's 6-14, they have no support system and they have no answer and no plan B. And then you're throwing away another season.
They have to be better set up than that. They do.
Yeah, they will be.
I would hope so, but I'm
another goal. They will have a veteran goalie around too. They're not.
I'm just going to give you an example, right? The Rangers have Louis Domingue hanging around.
Right, that's what's going to happen. And the reality is, when you talk about what coaches say in press conferences or things like that, yeah, Rice is right. He's got to talk. He's got to give his team a feeling that they believe in them this summer. He wants those guys to think they're going to be the team goalies next year because he wants them to work for that spot.
Right. I get it.
You can't not say that. I mean, it's like you can't say we're going to go out and get another goalie. And right now, to sit there and say that that Sabres fans are angry. They're actually more upbeat than they've been in a long time because this team put on a really good run for this thing, and they have Devin Levi now. They have a future that they look to brightly. So I think the press conference kind of mirrored the mood of the fans right now.
I don't know about that, Mike. What was going on with talk radio? You said a lot of the call and stuff had to do with the goaltending, right?
Well, yeah, they're looking before the availabilities. They were looking for some sort of, I would say, definitive answer, and maybe you're not going to get that at the end of the season media availability. But coming out of it, what came out of Granato and Adams's mouth is, we have every confidence that the pairing of Luukkonen and Levi, and that's clueless.
It's not
You shouldn't frame it like that, Eck, because neither has any kind of NHL experience.
Right. And Luukkonen's NHL experience has been pedestrian at best.
What would you say exactly, Mike? Give me that's going to keep your players upbeat and keep everybody working hard and keep everybody confident. What are you going to say?
Well, okay, what I'm going to say is, we're encouraged by what Levi did in a very short window, and we're going to give him every opportunity to have an NHL job next year, and we're going to look to improve our goaltending, and whether that's Luukkonen taking a step or going out and getting a goaltender, we'll see what happens. But they can't go into training camp after Craig Anderson retires with Eric Comrie being the plan B or C if Luukkonen or Levi don't work out.
And what you're saying is what they're going to do. Like what you said there is exactly what they're going to do. But what they say.
Okay, but here's what I would have said. I would have basically said what Mike said as far as this is encouraging what we saw about Levi. However, next year's job is up for grabs, the number one job, and there will be a competition, and we'll see who's involved in that competition. And that's exactly the way I would do it. Because right now I want these two guys competing against each other, and I'm bringing in another guy to compete against the other two, just like the NFL would if they weren't sure about their quarterback.
You could definitely go that way. Yes, you could. I mean, you could have gone that way. You could have said that. But I think that you're looking at a coach and an organization that is trying to be as upbeat as possible right now with what's going on.
Right, but it's hard to be upbeat when your fans are dying to make the playoffs and they saw that you were super close. And now next year, you're basically saying, well, don't worry, these guys – they're going to be the reason we do it, and they don't have a track record. It's hard to rest.
They're a young team. They don't make the playoffs until they make the playoffs, right? Like there's no track record here at all.
No, but I mean, there's really no track record with the goaltending. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
That sounds familiar. Act. That's sort of like until they beat them,
right?
So you're going to compare.
Yeah.
Let me get this straight. The Buffalo Sabres goaltending situation to the Maple Leafs collapse.
No, I'm going to compare the Buffalo Sabres not making the playoffs to the Toronto Maple Leafs not winning a playoff series. It's been 12 years.
All right.
It's been 12 years of failure in Buffalo.
Yes.
And it's been 7 years. So 6 years going on 7 years possibly of failure once they get into the playoffs of not being able to perform. You have to perform at the right time. The Sabres haven't been able to perform in the 82 games. The Leafs haven't been able to perform in the first round. It's very similar.
All right, that's true. I agree with that, but it doesn't mean that that they should all go like we're doomed. They could all be like sit back and say that we're never going to do this, and that we lost one game, so I guess the series is over. And I guess
I don't think the series is over with that. And what I said is the failure in game one is very similar to the failures over the last 6 years. Now,
whether they lost, I mean, they lost I mean, of course it's similar. I mean, they lost, but the reality is that I didn't see that game as, I mean, obviously they got better goaltending last year.
Mitigated disaster act. That game was an embarrassing curb stomping.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and they didn't have that. They didn't have a game like that last year. But they didn't, they went 7 games but they gave up 7 goals last night. And when you give up 7 goals, it's like
game 4 was exactly like this. I think it was 7-3. So,
okay.
But anyway,
they did have a game like this last year.
Let's talk about the 4 games tonight because
okay.
Why don't we do it this way? Which of the 4 series tonight have the best chance of going up 2-0? I think Boston. Even though Bergeron. Now this is the interesting thing. Now it's not an illness. Now it's an injury, according to Jim Montgomery, regarding Bergeron. And there's some talk that he got injured. And here's the case for load management, folks. Bergeron got hurt in that game against Montreal, game number 82. Wrap your guys in bubble wrap, folks.
Yeah, but you can't. Completely.
Yes, you can. Because
even when you wrap them in bubble wrap, guys can get hurt. They did just as that. You can't completely avoid. You can't play being afraid to get hurt. If you're that afraid, don't put him in the friggin' lineup. Just don't. If he's going to play, his chance he's going to get hurt. I mean, I think Carolina is the most likely to go 2-0 tonight. I mean, Boston. I think has a really good chance. Like I would say Carolina is like 75, Boston 70, 65, somewhere in there. But I think you could see a a rebound from the Panthers, just based on the way that that they did some things right. You're going to see Bobrovsky, I think. That's going to be a little bit of a lift for them. They took the Andrew Lyon thing as far as they could for sure, and they got a lot out of him. But it's time to get back to like 2 years ago when I asked Bill Zito in my interview, like, what's going to have to happen for this Florida Panthers team to win the Stanley Cup? He's like, Bobrovsky's going to have to be great, and it's the same. That the reality is the same right now. Like that's what's going to have to happen. You need your best goalie to be. You need your guy you're paying all that money to, who has the ability to steal games. He's got to steal games to Boston like he did against Tampa a few years back. So I think Florida, Boston could get interesting. I'm still not thinking the Flyers are going to win the series, but I think tonight's game could be like an overtime game or a really close game.
So what makes you think with Carolina? Is it Ronta? Is it the change of Ronta? Is it just the way Carolina plays defense? And that's
I think to me it's the matchup is just the wrong matchup for the Islanders, like in every which way. And then Carolina scores first too often, and the Islanders need to score first to like really be good, to really be competitive. I just think it's a situation where whoever scores first in that game, does have a really big up because they can both play defense. But Carolina has more ways to score first than the Islanders do, and goalie wise, Sorokin is obviously better. So it's going to be low scoring again, but you got to score more than a goal. Like the Islanders scored one goal.
That's pretty obvious.
So you can't blame Sorokin when you lose 2-1.
No.
So the reality is you can see another one of those 2-0, 2-1 type games tonight, I think. And
again, Carolina, this is the thing. If you're the Islanders, you have to get the lead. You really need to get the first goal because Carolina is a different team when they're playing up than when they're playing from behind.
Yeah. So
they really are.
So are the Islanders. That's the thing. They're so similar to these teams. They really are. They're very similar. Except for the fact that Carolina's just deeper.
Brett Clark is a difference maker, and I think he had 2 assists in that first game. But you could just see the jump this guy's gotten. He's like 37 years old.
I know he's amazing to watch, and he really does. He's just an intimidating force out there. And you can see when you're skating down. You can imagine if you're skating down the wing and you look up and you see him there. As your defense, you're getting rid of the puck. You're not. It's like Burns is just that's what he is. He really has that. And then they also have guys that are sneaky good in playoffs. Like Stastny's still a playoff interesting.
Oh no, he's a great guy to have on the fourth line.
Yeah, he's still like a playoff factor. They have that. The Islanders in a way. I don't know if I would have changed what was happening towards the end of the season when they were actually starting to win some games there as much as they did with Barzal coming back. I think that also played into it too. When these guys come back for the playoffs, it doesn't always slot right back in like you want it to.
Yeah, I think the other thing is I think the Islanders have to sort of look at how they're distributing minutes too, because they're giving, as an example, okay, Cal Clutterbuck, 11:36. Now, I guess 2 of it is shorthanded, so I know he kills penalties. Okay, but I think at some point the Islanders really need to double up on their top 6 and put them out there more. Those guys could take more minutes. I know Barzal had 21, but I got to tell you something. I'm putting him out there for 25 if I'm struggling for scoring, and rather than having that fourth line keep coming out there. And I know he shortened them. They only played 9 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd have played him 7 minutes, and I'd have given Barzal an extra 2 minutes and some of the other guys too, because I need the offense.
I also think the Islanders need their defense to be way more involved in the offense. The Islanders defense. Take some chances. I mean, don't be scared of 2-on-1s all the time against, when you have Sorokin back there. Count on your good goalie to be a factor so that you can get some more offense going, so that you can set. You have to take some more chances. They're really set up on this. They're still playing Barry Trotz's system. It doesn't matter what coach is behind the bench. It's still very much playing Barry Trotz's system when you watch them. And they really they collapse back. They do it, but it's like they don't have faith in their goalie. The defense they're playing, their defense, they could shift it up a little bit from that 2-1 to 3-2, Mike. They can do that because they have a great goalie back there. And that's what Brind'Amour seems to be able to do better. Brind'Amour seems to be able to say, okay, let's shift the offense for a second up, and then we'll come back up and back. But
Ronta's not a great goalie, but he's a competent goaltender who's not going to make mistakes. And
he's good enough to play against a team that doesn't score goals like the Islanders.
Exactly. Man,
you're not looking at a lot of sharpshooters.
Right. You just need him. I mean, Ronta wasn't responsible for the loss to the Rangers last year. I think he actually played above expectations.
Yeah, I mean, he can be He can be all that. He's not like a Pekka Rinne. He's not at Pekka Rinne's level, but he's not also at Mrazek's level.
His issue has always been durability. He's always been
right. He always gets hurt eventually. Yes, and yeah, that's for sure.
Now the
his attitude is not the greatest attitude.
The injury to Romanov is hurting him because he is a physical guy, and they definitely could use that on the.
He's a transitional defenseman, which they desperately need.
And apparently he's not going to play in this game.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's going to play tonight.
But Josh Bailey, they're just keeping him out, right?
Haven't heard yet.
No, it looks like. I don't see that there's any injury with Josh Bailey. I just think they're not playing him.
What is the thing with that? Why are they doing?
Well, they're playing guys like Matt Martin over Josh Bailey. That's the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, great contract. Now the two late games. I think it's more desperation time for Dallas to go to even this series with the respect that Pavelski's out. They called up Riley Tufte, Russ. So
yeah, he's a big kid, man. This guy,
a great name.
You don't want to get hit by Riley Tufte. If you see him in the uniform, you're going to look at him and say, man, this guy is a mountain. I mean, he really is. He skates okay. He doesn't have great hands. If he's around the net, though, he can possibly push a puck in. But his big thing is he will kill you in the corners.
Yes, I'm not saying that they're going to target specific.
No, but that's what they're going to. That's why they're bringing up Riley Tufte. Trust me.
They're bringing up Riley Tufte. Mason Marchman is going to have the Bombay doors open. If I'm Kaprizov or I'm Zuccarello, I'm keeping my eyes open because you're going to get hit. You're going to get often.
You're only. I mean, and Ekman Larson might be back tonight. That's a big deal if he is. Right?
No, Ekman Larson's not going to be back.
No, wait, no. Who am I talking about?
I don't know.
Eriksson Ek.
Eriksson Ek. Why am I saying Ekman Larson? I'm sorry. Man, lose my mind.
Eriksson Ek would be a big guy to get back.
Eriksson Ek is a very important player for the Wild. Like he's up and among the top 3 or 4 most important players on that team. If he comes back, that helps a lot.
Now, boy, there will be a lot of collars tightening tonight if the LA Kings repeat what they did in game 1 against Edmonton. I mean, do I expect Connor McDavid to be held off the scoreboard? No, of course not. And LA is playing with house money, just sort of like John Coop. Well, they're very businesslike. We went to Alberta and we took the game, and now
they're getting Gabe Velarde back, which is a heck of a guy to get back.
Right, but again, I said this series was going to go 7. I particularly think that the Kings are going to win it. I know that Kevin had a problem with my my reasoning here, but honestly, I still think that the Edmonton Oilers, in spite of the fact that they played really well down the stretch, that those mental pathways when it comes to the Oilers is to give up offensive chances and not be able to play well defensively. And they didn't play well defensively in the last 10 minutes of the third period.
Yeah, they played it bad. They really got overconfident, and they didn't shut it down like they had to. There's no question. Were Skinner's still the goalie tonight? Do we know?
Yeah,
from what I've heard,
it seems that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would do that or not, but we'll see. But
I would have a short leash on Skinner tonight.
Yeah, you have to because you have an experienced goalie behind him. Why not go with a little bit more experience? It's just like
sometimes experience and losing experience is not the greatest thing.
He played better than Samsonov played last night. Put it that way.
Wait, I'll tell you what the jinx was. Here's the jinx. They actually showed Ales Hemsky on the big board for the Oilers. He never won anything.
No, he was kind of notorious for the giveaway he gave up that helped Carolina win the Stanley Cup.
Don't show Ales Hemsky. That's bad luck.
Yeah, I think that
Corey Cross at a Leaf game.
I mean, I don't think this series is over if LA wins night either. By the way, because this is a series where clearly one team's better than the other in my mind. So
that's Russ. That's like having Aki Berg do the siren at Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah, I think we will see a rebound from Edmonton though in this game.
I mean, it has to.
Edmonton is not a bet. I mean, they won 2 playoff series last year. They know what to do. They've been in this situation before. They felt behind.
That's true. But if they do go down 0-2, right? Let's say they go with Skinner and they leave him in, and they go down 0-2, then they're in a tough spot because I would rather pull Skinner in this game and see what I'm getting out of Jack Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell.
I was just, the name was just out of my head. I would rather see what I'm getting out of Campbell in this game.
Yes.
And wait until next game when I'm down 0-2. I got to find out now So that's why Skinner, I'm not. If he gives up 2 goals, I'm taking him out.
Unless Campbell's hurt a little bit, we don't know, or something like that.
He's not hurt.
If he's healthy, then he really should be getting this game. But we'll see. We'll see. You know, and I mean, at the end of the day, you know, this Oilers team is going to be hard to eliminate. I think. And Connor McDavid is going to not. He showed last year that he was hard to eliminate.
You know, here's a good point. Leonard brings up that Nyquist, you know, was good for Minnesota. Nyquist shouldn't even be playing. Like, honestly,
He's very good for Minnesota, though. Leonard's right.
No, I know, but he shouldn't be playing. Like, that's a total cap circumvention with that whole trade. It really was.
I mean, geez, like how many cap other teams have done?
No.
I mean, they got Nyquist on the lineup. You know, was supposed to getting Bertuzzi on the lineup for the Bruins.
No, but you were trading an injured player.
Oh yeah.
A lot of sports won't let you trade an injured player.
Well, that's true.
To finish off the show, we have to start doing this because before May the 8th, when we're going to have let's see here. Is it showing? Oh, there we go. Okay.
And why the hell is it so late, by the way? Like it's never
I don't
been.
know. Who knows?
It's usually like in the first round or even before the playoffs start.
No, it's usually in the first round.
So, okay, drum roll, please.
All right.
The Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow.
Looks good.
Maybe because I was at their meeting yesterday and, I talked about Bedard, and even though they don't have a great chance.
They win way more often on this Tankathon, I've noticed that. Like I was listening to XM, they won on Tankathon on XM today too.
Yeah.
They really shouldn't win that many times on there. So
well, it's 1, 7, or 9. That's what they're going to win.
Oh yeah, so Bedard, I mean, on Philadelphia is obviously a huge difference maker right away. Like,
but I'm going to tell you, Torts is going to take away some of his points. He will not get like an 80-point rookie season with John Tortorella there.
No, just one note, because I heard Elliot Friedman talking about this regarding Philadelphia. He said that, the Ray Shero stuff is not as likely, but the names that were mentioned as potential team president candidates were a couple of the Vancouver Canuck assistant GMs and Emily Costanguay and Cammy Granato, which those would be interesting choices.
You got to remember, there's a female CEO in Comcast, so
right.
So there's that, and I'm sure she's pushing for it. And hey, it could be good. I mean,
they definitely did interview Emily. Emily, they definitely interviewed. I heard that for sure.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be. We know that there's a female general manager in Major League Baseball, and I think it's Kim Ng in
Listen, just an outside voice, I think, is a help for the Flyers.
True. That's true. Yeah, I mean,
I do want to point this out also, just because somebody had mentioned this to me. Just because they're coming from Vancouver doesn't mean they aren't good at their job. There's a lot of bad things that were going on in that Vancouver management system that failed.
The owners tie the hands very much of the management team.
So I wouldn't count just because someone's in Vancouver that they can't possibly do a good job for your team.
Precisely.
Don't make a mistake.
Definitely, that's a tough place to be because I mean, those Vancouver owners, the owners always are. If they demand something, the general manager has no choice but to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. That's what you've seen a lot in Vancouver over the years. Which can be good if the owners know what they're talking about or not if they don't. So there you have it. All right, folks, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll be previewing another game tomorrow night. We'll talk to you then.